All right, this is SFBarkast. I'm Jeff Cleary.
I'm Andrew Louder.
And Andrew, where are we today?
We are in Reno, Nevada at JubJubs Thirst Parlor.
In JubJubs. And
Indeed.
let me tell you something. We talked about this a long time ago. This is the second time, even though we're on the road, it's SFBarkast. We're in Nevada.
I believe they prefer Nevada, which is why I like to say Nevada.
Okay, so they prefer Nevada.
Yeah.
So we're going to call it Nevada.
Exactly.
Okay, there we go.
Fair enough.
This is the second time we've tried to do JubJubs.
Second time you've tried to do JubJubs.
Yeah, well, I mean,
be fair.
the royal we, okay?
Oh, of course, yeah.
And the last time we tried to do it, it was like 2 years ago. It was me and Kevin Montgomery, and we came here and we had this goddamn like odyssey of like drama. Like when we first got here, we didn't have like the batteries for like the recorder,
Okay.
and then like we realized that the SD card was like broken somehow. So then I had to run out, and I thought I had found like a drugstore around here, and it turns out it was just a hospital. So, but the things I ran out there
Right.
to get, and I came back, and then like Kevin's like, I was just been talking to this guy at this bar, and he said he's got an SD card in his car. So I was like, oh, this is great. So
You're
then
like, oh, this could not possibly end badly.
Right, so, exactly. All we have to do is go back to his house. His house is a men's room, but don't worry.
Yeah, exactly.
No, but like, so this guy
I
like,
live in Winnemucca. It'll take us 4 hours to get there, but I'll get you your card.
so like this guy like basically gave us a card, but we had a problem. It was the old recorder.
Right.
Like we still couldn't salvage it. So I looked into that young, cancer-ridden child's eyes that day, and I said, I will be back.
Like hell or high water, we will record here at some point.
I will be back to JubJubs for another SFBarkast. I promise you. I don't really know what happened to him, but
That's right. As far as I know, he probably died of cancer. I mean, like that's the direction he was going. I assume he like followed that through.
well, that is a narrative that we did not agree upon. All right, so we're at JubJubs, and this is. How would you describe this bar? It's in Reno, aside from the fact that it's in Reno, and they serve alcohol.
That's going to be the basics that most people come into it with, and our job is to color in the lines. If
it deviates anywhere from there, then people are going to be confused. But
Exactly.
like fill in the blanks after that.
You know, I like it. You know, it's funny because I heard a little bit of the sort of like outtakes of the Reno attempt earlier with you and Kevin, and because okay, here's where my mind went. Like when you came back and said like, oh yeah, we have all of this like audio, but it's like cut into bits where it's like it starts and stops. It's but every like 3 or 4 seconds.
There was some
like,
dropout.
Yeah, it was terrible. I mean, like it was unlistenable. Like you couldn't possibly like cobble together a real episode.
Someone right now is thinking, how is that any different than your usual podcast?
Exactly.
Effort,
really.
You be quiet, Drew Harmon.
Shut up. Shut up. You just shut up. Like, no, but like, and so my thought was like, okay, I want to take all of these like little clips and stuff like that, and I'm going to make like a mixtape out of it or make something cool with it. And so I spent like, probably hours and hours like going over like that, like the first JubJubs pass through, whatever like that, trying to like, just make like dumb mixes out of it or like, or like take Kevin Montgomery shouting like Reno, like like over and over again, and like and throw it into like a EDM mix or something like that, with no success. I can say like I think it was a project that was abandoned like at least 4 or 5 times, and like
it was doomed
for
from
the last
start.
time like maybe 6 months ago.
Yeah, exactly. It was like the Titanic leaving.
At that point, I realized in order to like feed my OCD or like that, I will have to like move to Reno and bring you out here and record again here just to make things right.
Well, the prophecy is fulfilled. We are back at JubJubs.
Exactly.
And also, I don't think you answered the question. How would you like describe this bar?
Oh, how would I describe it? Lots of brick.
Lots of brick.
Like it's funny because when you see it from the street, like it's sort of like closed off, like you don't see like windows or anything, and it's and you were like, oh, I think you enter through the back, and I'm like, okay, yeah, like sure, Jeff,
sure. Exactly. Why is the back? You mean the behind this dumpster?
Yeah, exactly. but it's true. You do enter it like sort of off the street in the back, and then when you go into it, it's I mean, it's a big bar. It's like it's certainly big enough. But then you realize that like, oh, okay, there's this whole other performance space attached to it that like faces the street, and like the actual bar portion that has a stage of its own is like right here. I mean, like it's if this place were in San Francisco, it would be like nightmarishly packed all the time.
Yes, absolutely. Well, here's the thing: like the bar that we're like the actual bar where we are at is, you know, it's very long. They have like a pool table here. This place
would pool tables actually.
This place would be great for comedy because it has a very small stage.
Yeah.
The only problem is that there's a pool table right in front of the stage.
But you know,
I mean, like they probably
put like a cover over the pool table.
Yeah, you know, actually they probably moved the pool table, but it would be a perfect bar for comedy.
Yeah, I totally agree. Like, and it's as far as like clientele and stuff like that, it has like a very sort of Bender's vibe to it. Like, you know, where it's like you know, like it's not like 100% hipster or like, you know, there's no like tech bro like you know, like aspect to it all, because there isn't really in Reno that much. But like, you know, but yeah, the crowd is like, you know, very mixed, but like, you know, sort of like you get your like you know, sort of leather jacket wearing like you know, tough girls and stuff like that to come in. But like it's other than that, like I mean, it's really comfortable. Like I love the whole sort of
It's very
layout.
bike friendly because they have like bikes hanging from like the side of the walls.
I even see, and like I'm gonna try not to take points off.
I just saw it right now.
I think
you
might
know,
be looking at the same thing.
Andrew, we've been here for about an hour. I did not see that. Oh,
there
God.
are multiple unicycles, but only two that I see, but that still qualifies as multiple.
I'm gonna take a couple points off of my score sheet here.
If I see any like juggling pins or anything like that, like I'm just walking out. You'll never see me again.
What is it about, like, you know, like I ride my bike everywhere,
Yeah.
and like I like have this like total affinity for bicycling.
Yeah.
But what is it about like unicycles where people are like, fuck that?
The unicycle seems to me to be totally impractical, because like you can't go faster on a unicycle than you can on a bicycle, not by a long shot. So you're only riding it so people will look at you and go, hey, look at that guy on the unicycle.
How about this? Like just for 1 year, the Tour de France on a unicycle.
I would watch it. There's 0% chance of me watching the regular Tour de France, but if they were like, we're only allowing clowns who juggle on unicycles this year, I'd be like, I will DVR the shit out of that.
Because then it'd be like, well, you know, this clown. Some clowns are good at like, you know, like straightaways, and some clowns are good at climbing up in the Pyrenees.
Some are good at juggling things that are on fire. Some like chainsaws.
So whatever. Like they have like, so they're obviously very bike friendly.
Yeah, and unicycle friendly. Unfortunately, like those.
No.
Unicyclists should be shunned.
No. I think they're unicycle tolerant, not friendly.
Well, no, like you don't hang something from your ceiling that you're tolerant of.
I mean, maybe they murdered the person that owned that.
You know what? I'm going with that story. I like that. I like that idea. I'm good with that.
But it's cool. Like I've been like in Reno for a little while with you, and you're just kind of like driving around everywhere. And I was like, it's like every place that's not San Francisco for me. Everything's like so spread out.
Yeah.
So when I see a place, like even when we were like downtown, I was like, oh my God, there's a bicycle shop right there.
Right. right in town.
Yeah, so well, it's like every time I see like somebody who's like riding a bicycle or something, like, oh, that's great. That to me that like that says neighborhood.
Yeah.
Like that's like a good thing. Although, like, not to like sell her out, but like when we first sat down to like do the podcast, this patron came in here. She brought her like big bicycle, her cruiser bicycle in here.
All right. Not a fixie, but.
And then as we're setting up, she like looked at me and said, "Feel free to ring my bell." And I went, "Oh, you mean on the bicycle?" And she just gave me this dirty look, and I was just like, "Wait, what?" Like you're opening the door to this dumb joke.
Exactly.
Like you put the ball on the tee, and you said, "Don't swing at it."
He's like, you couldn't have literally meant like, hey, you know, if you have a propensity to ring bells, like there is one here. Like you didn't literally mean that. Like you were at least participating in the joke. Don't pretend like you weren't.
Even if she's literal, she also has to like be like, hey, there's a 85% chance someone's going to make a dumbass joke out of that statement. You can't be like, I didn't see that coming.
Like, I can't expect the average response to be like, yes, ma'am, I will.
Like, thank you very much.
I did not have plans for any bell ringing this evening, but I appreciate the offer.
So we're back at JubJubs. This is great. We're Andrew, you have moved here. You're a resident of Reno.
It all is still so weird, and
what are your adjustments?
You know, like, well, not only, of course, the pace and you know, sort of overall vibe of the place is much, you know, is more slowed down. Oddly, I feel like I've had like adjustments like to the altitude. Mm-hmm. It's not that high, but like I've never lived, you know, anywhere that wasn't like, you know, within a couple hundred feet of sea level.
What it's what, like 4,000 feet?
Yeah, something like 4,500, 5,000.
45. Actually, here's the thing: if you've only lived at sea level,
yeah, and
like 4,500 feet is not really that high. Like, you're not in the fucking Himalayas.
Yeah, exactly. I'm not like dying of, you know, I'm not like, I don't have like, you know, constant headaches and like, yeah, and you know. No one's sucking on oxygen tanks.
Yeah, sucking on humbugs. I mean, no.
That's what they call oxygen tanks, right?
No, but like, yeah, no, it's true though. Like, I feel like, you know, I mean, you're like, how much thinner can the air be from sea level to 4,500 feet?
Right.
But the thing is, like, if you've only lived at sea level like me,
yeah,
like I mean, I'm not getting tired all the time, but if I lived here, maybe I would.
Well, it does seem like an oddly like sort of cumulative thing where, like, you know, if you're here for like, you know, more than a couple of days, like you just find yourself like sort of, you know, beat. Like, not even like you know, oh my God, I'm out of breath, or like, you know, I can't make it, or anything like that. But you just sort of like feel like, yeah, I could really like enjoy a nap, like like all day.
My biggest problem with like Nevada, or like mostly the high desert or Nevada.
You mean Nevada?
Nevada.
Right.
Sorry. Is that like the amount of air conditioning that I have to like put up with? It's like that's like something.
And that's the weird thing is it's not even like, it's not a ridiculously hot place, but it like the temperature fluctuates a lot, and the entire like sort of you know what I mean, like the whole climate itself, like sort of you know, goes through all of these like rapid changes where it's like it's really windy at times,
right?
But then it's also like sort of like hot and deserty and dry, and then
it's
like,
a high desert.
It is, but it's also like somebody was explaining to me that the weather systems like are coming off of the Sierras, like they're just sort of like pouring down the Sierras, and so they go at such a speed that they just like roll right through Reno. So like every sort of like weather thing that happens, like it'll snow for like 5 minutes and then it'll stop, and then it'll rain really hard for like 5 minutes and then it'll stop, or it'll be like really sunny and hot for like 5 minutes, and then it'll be like cool and like windy.
So you're saying even the weather patterns don't want to like hang out in Reno?
Yeah, exactly. They're like, you know what?
Going.
I'm gonna move on. Like maybe I'll sleep in Salt Lake City. This state seems to suck.
Unless there's a bowling tournament here. Although, which is what's happening now. There's a bowling tournament in Reno right now.
I've seen a lot of signs in casinos that have like discounts for like if you show your pro bowler card.
If you're in Reno, Nevada, Nevada.
Okay, whatever.
Right now, you may be sitting right next to a professional bowler.
An athlete.
An athlete.
a professional athlete.
You know what actually is a really good professional bowler? Mookie Betts.
Mookie Betts, really?
Mookie Betts,
who
plays for the Boston Red Sox.
Right. Not a person you would look at and be like, that's a bowler.
He supposedly has had like 3 perfect games.
What is he, Kim Jong-un?
No,
he's like, I've had 3 perfect games. No one witnessed them, but I did.
No, it's like one of those things where it is certified.
Right, know? Yeah, okay. Right.
But it's like, yeah, like you basically get a strike every single time.
Like,
10 frames.
You mean certified, like Hillary Clinton's
election? Shit, don't even start with that.
I know, like, won't even bother. A lot of people are sort of have taken the baton already from like the rants like from the last couple of episodes.
We will talk. No. I want to talk about that because I do feel like a lot of people right now
care about that shit.
probably have been listening to SF Barkast and heard all of our rants.
Exactly. Like,
And now
we're constantly being like ripped off, and
well, that's the thing. Like,
people are making millions on their Facebook feeds based on our takes.
Dude, we're tastemakers. You know,
Exactly.
like that's the thing. It's
Well,
like that.
Yes.
I mean, like 3 weeks ago, it wasn't like fashionable to like talk shit about Bernie Bros, and
That's right.
now it's fucking like it's mainstream.
De rigueur.
All right, you want to take a break?
Sure, we can do that.
All right, this is SF Barkast. We're at JubJubs in Reno. We'll be back. All right, and we are back at JubJubs in Reno.
Indeed.
Andrew, here's the thing. We are, generally speaking, our second segment is about sports.
Sure.
And I toyed with this idea that we would, because I'm in Nevada, and everybody knows that I am a degenerate gambler.
This is the first time hearing of it, but go ahead.
Okay. I was thinking that here we go. Can we get a little like music here? Okay. So I was thinking like we could like maybe like document me watching sports,
Right.
while I have action on the game, and
Right.
like I don't know if like people know that like if you don't like a sport and you put money on the sport, let me tell you something. You will like that sport.
This is true.
Like that's my angle on it. So
Absolutely.
so we both have like action on a game that's going on right now. But
Right.
I think we made the right decision where at JubJubs there is no television set. So there's
True.
there's plenty of like speed metal, but there's not
Right.
not a whole lot of like
All of a sudden.
It's not a whole lot of like watching, like basketball games that you have like action on.
Yeah, totally.
Therefore, we will just have to check it as we go along. But,
Right,
but
we can.
I think this is like a better way to do it because if we were actually like trying to record while we were like watching the game,
Right, we'd be distracted.
I would just be like, oh God.
Not like now where we can totally like, just not be distracted at all because there's not like super, super loud death metal. But
God
what
damn
are
it,
you gonna
Randy. God damn it, Randy Foyt.
you know what? At least like
Or Kyle Lowry.
the guy that like played it, like, he's like probably about like my height. He's got a beard that's also about my height, and like and a total like leather jacket and everything. So like he's not fucking around. Like he's not the kind of person that plays death metal where you go up and be like, hey man, what was that all about?
Okay, well here's the thing. Like he's kind of like, oh yeah, like this. He's like all into like disrupting.
Right.
Or it's like, oh yeah, like I'm gonna disrupt the whole like JubJub bar. The thing is that you're like, hey, you know what? Like, this is not anything that I didn't hear when Ministry did it.
Yeah, true, yeah. Well, and it's like, it's the kind of place too where like, I don't expect them to cater to my needs necessarily because like, this is it's more of a young person's bar.
Bring it on.
Exactly, that's what I say. In fact, I think like that's one of the things I like about this place, and like maybe even like Reno in particular, is that it seems like a fun place to be like a 20 to 30-year-old person. Like there's places you can hang out at and feel cool.
What?
Like I feel like if I were in my 20s and 30s, like there's a few places in Reno that I could hang out and feel like a pretty cool person. And I'm not sure that that's the case like in a lot of like larger cities where like everything is sort of divided into either like real dive, where it's like, very ancient old people, like, and sort of a sad environment, or you go to like the super hipster place that's like completely packed and like everyone's sort of like, peacocking around anyway. So like,
Well, the one thing I'll say about this place is that like if you're like the last time like I came here, like Kevin and I stayed at the Circus, right?
Okay, yeah.
And if you're staying at the Circus or any of those other like casinos down on like basically the strip
like
on
Sierra, Virginia, or whatever.
it's
yeah.
like I don't care who you are, you're the most attractive person there. Okay,
Right.
Or it's it just like speaks to a bunch of like American tourists,
Right.
but here
Well, it's sort of like in a weird way, and I hope I'm not like speaking out of school and people from Reno won't be upset with this notion. But I think Reno, like if you go to Las Vegas, there's some like gastropods walking around. Like I mean, like it attracts, you know, it doesn't attract the best and brightest Americans to it necessarily, but it attracts a slightly better looking clientele than a lot of Reno casinos do.
Well, what I was trying to say is that like here at JubJubs, you actually like find like people who are like not, who are actually like attractive.
Right.
You know, where it's like, you know, like when you're like you know, when I first came to like Reno a long time ago, I was like, look, I know there's a lot of brothels around here, but where are all the attractive people?
Right.
But like, you know, like I mean, here, like we're off the main strip in Reno, and we're just like, oh, so there are people who are actually like, you know, like work out or whatever. Like I'm just saying it's better than like being inside the circus at 4 a.m.
Oh, totally. Yeah. No, it's definitely a better crowd than that. And like I say, it's like it's comparable. And we actually like during the break, I noticed that there's a sweatshirt from the Kilowatt.
A little place called the Kilowatt.
Exactly. Which you know, so you know that just from that alone, you know that they have the right ideas in mind when it comes to sister bars or places that they're advertising.
All right, enough of that bullshit.
There's a guy playing pool right now in a Batman basketball jersey that says Batman on the back, and I respect that.
I have no idea who that character is. All right, so Andrew, let's like look at our bets, like because we don't have like because we don't have a monitor to like check on our bets.
Exactly. So
I'm going to lean on you. What are the bets that you have?
I only have one bet, and like I've never done this kind of bet before. But this is like I only bet on the first half of the Toronto Raptors Cleveland Cavaliers game tonight. And
first hit is free.
Exactly, and like the spread on the first half of that game was Cleveland by 7.5, and I was like, well, that's just giving money away. Like you can't have a 7.5 point spread on a half on a conference title game.
So you took the 7.5 points and the Raptors.
I did.
And what's the score now?
It is currently. Do you want the odds adjusted score or the actual score?
I want the actual score. Right. I can do the math in my head.
All right. The actual score with, I believe, 8 minutes left in the second quarter is Cleveland 41 and Toronto 37. So
41-37.
I'm currently winning.
So here's the thing. Like I have the other side of that bet where, like, I need Cleveland to win to like be up by 8 at halftime.
Right.
So like, I mean, this could be our last podcast ever. Like if you win and I lose.
Oh, that'll be the worst.
Actually, maybe people wouldn't probably never hear this because I smashed all the equipment.
It would be almost as terrible as if as if you won and I didn't.
Not as bad. Well,
well, we all have our ideas about what's good and bad.
I don't have anything else about sports.
We should talk about the Warriors series is like sort of heating up and like they're finally playing a team that's I think matches up with them well.
The NBA must be happy. The only way the NBA would be unhappy is if Toronto were to somehow like beat the Cavaliers.
Yeah.
But the thing is, like, anybody who comes out of the West, whether it's like the Warriors, who like set the single season record for wins, or OKC, Oklahoma City, who has like 2 legitimate superstars on their team.
Right.
The NBA, they like both of those like options coming out of the West, but in the East, it has to be Cleveland.
Right.
Because like you can't have like if it's Toronto coming out of the East, like nobody will fucking watch.
Right.
And actually, it'll be great. Of course, I'm a Warrior fan. I want it to be the Warriors in Cleveland. I want the Warriors to beat Cleveland. But it's like I feel like that would be a very highly rated as far as viewership.
Yeah. No, it's true. But I don't know. Yeah, but I think it's going to be a good series though. Like between like the Warriors and the
we were talking about
Thunder.
this today. Like we were like driving around and we were listening to like sports talk radio.
Oh yeah.
And the one thing that like I can't believe because when we do this podcast, and there's like even like a second of like dead air.
Right.
I'm just like, oh, I have to fill it with something, so I'll tell some stupid joke or like make it some sort of sound effect.
Right.
But like, if you're listening to any like sports talk radio, they're just like, Well, I think the Warriors are gonna win.
Right.
Or it's like, or they'll say something like, the Warriors didn't play well last night, and then just
Like,
let it like marinate. It's like,
what's your hot take?
fuck all those guys. All right.
Well, I mean, like you think about the number of like sports talk guys there are that have to fill like that much time every day. Like they're probably like, I'm going to take a break during this sentence and like think about my life.
My take is it's not like a dramatic or pregnant pause.
Right.
What it is that they actually are that stupid that they need the time to think about what they're going to say next.
Right.
I'm looking at you, Gottlieb. I'm looking at
Gottlieb.
you, fucking Colin Coward.
Danny Werfel.
Danny Warble, eat a dick. Oh. As you can tell, I've been drinking already. All right, let's take a break.
Let's do that.
And we'll come back and we'll talk about a little, maybe a little politics.
We'll gather our heads. I think like the suddenness of the music injection into this probably threw us both off a little. Like we're just like having a nice polite conversation, and then like you've got some guy going crazy on the foot pedals on the drums.
And here's the thing: the guy who's like playing pool over here, like he knows he can't like shoot like pure pool unless he's listening to like metal math rock.
Exactly. Like
so it's like we gotta have a lot of like time changes.
He has to make sure that he's like ready to play pool and like possibly fight people that don't like his music all at the same time. Like that's the only way he can get motivated.
Well, yeah, I'm going to leave that one alone. All right, this is SFBarkast. We are at JubJubs. We'll be back
After this break.
All right, and we are back.
Sweet.
Back.
Current score of the Raptors-Cavaliers game,
I don't
adjusted
wanna
for gambling purposes, is 50.5 to 46 Toronto.
What do you say, 50.5? No, wait. Don't.
50.5.
No,
I'm adjusting. That's my new thing. Is like
Just give me the regular fucking like score.
I don't believe in regular scores anymore. There are only spreads.
Obviously, Andrew, you're doing a good job of adjusting to living in
Exactly. Like
Nevada.
I don't know
Or
why
Nevada.
anybody would even talk about like the regular score. What does that have to do with anything?
I would have such a hard time like living in Nevada.
Like luckily, I mean, like I don't. I'm able to resist so far the
Resist what?
the allure of sports gambling.
What's that like?
I'll let you know. Like it certainly doesn't pay very well. Like
I love it. I love like sports gambling, but let me tell you something. By all indications, I'm terrible at it.
well, I mean that's
I like to think that it's like if you were basically like, okay, I'm addicted to a drug that doesn't get me high,
right.
and then you're like, wait a minute, why am I still doing this drug? Why would I keep doing this? But like you still do it because you're
Right.
chasing the chance that you might want to get. It may
Exactly.
happen for you.
It's almost like like Vicodin or something like that, where it's like once you get addicted to it, like you don't enjoy it ever. You just don't have a bad time like that you would coming off of it.
I don't like doing it. I need to do it.
Exactly. Like
So whatever. I mean, like that's kind of a dark, little dark angle there.
At
but
this
like,
point.
okay, so like a bunch of other things. I want to like point out something that we at SF Barkast, we've been talking shit about these Bernie or bust douchebags for
Right.
a long time. And now I feel like now it's fashionable. So I think like maybe we're kind of like tastemakers.
could very well be.
And it's like, like people are like very much like coming down hard on like Bernie Sanders supporters who are saying like, no, they will never vote for Hillary Clinton. And then when people present them with like, well, you could be like this sort of spoiler, whether it be like Ross Perot or like Ralph Nader. They're just like, I don't see it that way. But
Fine, whatever.
But here's the thing, like their take is that like there's no difference between Hillary and Trump,
Right.
and my take is I don't want to find out if you're right.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like
Yeah, exactly. Like
I mean, even if you 100% believe that, like I
I'm
saw,
not sure about a lot of things, but I'm I feel reasonably confident that like a Clinton presidency would be better than a than a Trump
well,
presidency
I've said
because
this-
we've already had a Clinton presidency and it was all right.
I've said this before, where it's like supposedly if a Hillary Clinton presidency is just an extension of the Obama presidency,
That's
I'm
great.
fine with it.
Of course.
I'm fine. Sorry.
Yeah.
I'm totally fine. And actually, there are some metrics, judging by how she's voted in the past, that show that she's actually more liberal than Obama.
I would believe that, actually.
Not as liberal as Bernie Sanders. So
Sure.
But the thing is, like, this whole like concept of like, oh, she's a career politician. She takes money
Right.
from like Goldman Sachs. It's like, yeah, of course she does.
Yeah, exactly. Like, yeah, I think we were discussing this a little bit before, and and I was saying that that becomes your job, and like you are a public speaker and a civil servant, and there's nothing wrong with any of that, unless you believe that like every single time someone pays you, they now own you for the rest of their life.
Exactly. Well, that's
Like,
the
well,
thing.
no, that's not how it works at all.
Yeah,
Like-
she goes to like Goldman Sachs. She makes speeches. They give her money. It doesn't mean she's in the pocket of Goldman Sachs.
Exactly. She's not like
I mean,
giving
it
them
just
all
means
like,
that, like-
hand
like,
jobs.
yeah,
Like she's just
yeah,
like delivering
whatever.
a fucking speech.
I mean, like I'm sure like Bernie Sanders gave some speeches to people who were kind of a little shady,
Right.
and it's like doesn't mean that he's beholden to them.
Right. Well, and you know, I only this only just occurred to me, so like it's sort of a half-formed thought, but I do feel like that there's and I know that this will sort of like ignite a hot button sort of like response.
Hot takes.
Hot takes coming through. But I do feel like there's a sexist element to it where.
Yeah, I do
But
too.
what you're basically saying is like, you know what? Men can like fucking take money from people and then tell them to fuck off. But you know, women, they probably can't do that.
No, I totally agree.
Yeah, so like, yeah, as soon as you give a woman money, apparently you own her. Whereas if you give like a guy money, he's like, yeah, thanks for like giving me money. Now go fuck yourself.
There are so many people who have like no problem calling Hillary Clinton a bitch on
Yeah.
social media in public.
Exactly. It's like, yeah. It's like I don't have a problem with you being like my racist uncle, like in person after you've had 20 drinks or something. But like, if you're sober, like getting up sober on a Tuesday morning and being like, you know what, I think Hillary Clinton's a bitch, and I think the world needs to know it. But like, there's something wrong with you.
But also, like, if you're basically like, I have the answer to all the problems, and that
Right.
person's a bitch. Like, and like your argument against that person is like, oh, she's a bitch. It's just like,
Yeah, like,
wait a minute.
not
and,
very compelling.
And also, like, these are like people who are like very like liberal, like very
Yeah,
way to
exactly,
the
yeah.
left. Like, you would never say a derogatory term against a gay or black candidate.
Oh my God, like that would just that would erase
they
your
have, like-
argument like from the world.
It-
Like no one
no-
would talk to you anymore.
Absolutely no problem
Yeah.
calling Hillary Clinton a bitch.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm like, I'm sorry. It like, at the very best, it is fucking ugly.
Yeah.
And at the worst, it's sexist.
Well, and also like, it's also totally pointless. It doesn't help the argument. It doesn't make me like say like, oh, you know what? Like suddenly I think like Bernie Sanders has a lot of great ideas because that guy called Hillary Clinton a bitch. Like, I might think that Bernie Sanders has great ideas, but it's because I looked into Bernie Sanders' ideas, not because like some dope on Facebook says like Hillary Clinton's unqualified somehow, even though she's been like in and around the White House for about 30 years now.
Well, no, she's absolutely qualified.
Of course she is.
In fact, like
it's so ridiculous.
like there have been like some polling studies that show that like when she was like Secretary of State,
Right.
her like approval rating was like through the roof. Like
Yeah.
you're like but like as soon as she starts to campaign, and she
Right.
basically she's doing is the exact same shit that every other man has ever done.
Right, like pivoting away from her job in order to raise money, unfortunately,
It's like
which is how the
somehow-
system works.
Like people have said like it somehow looks unladylike.
Right.
And then people get like all like misogynist on her. But the
Yeah,
thing is
yeah.
like, yeah, you don't know, like she's doing exactly the same thing that like her husband did, and
Yeah.
like a lot of other career politicians did. Like,
yeah, and, like-
I feel like if you want to,
Do I think it's a perfect system? No. Do I think like it could be improved like in little ways? Of course. But to just sort of like walk in, like kick the door down to like the fucking room and walk in and be like, I think everything should be this way, and everybody who doesn't think like me is an asshole. So fuck off. Like that person will be rightfully dealt with, like in any like normal situation. That's not the internet.
Like here's the thing, like maybe like those people can like learn something from actually like watching sports,
right.
where it's like, hey, you know what? Sometimes you win, and sometimes you lose. Right. You know, and it doesn't mean that.
And sometimes and sometimes the rules are slightly unfair. So you wait until after the season and you say like, here's my case, and they say like, oh, you know what, like. Maybe it was. Maybe we can fudge it a little bit this way, and that's the way it works. Like you don't just get to like walk in and be like, can you now like reverse like all of the games like for the last 5 years to show that I was the champion? Like no one's ever going to do that.
Yeah, exactly. Well, the thing is like if you want, you can like massage the numbers like in your favor, and you're like, oh well, you know, like if it weren't for like the super delegates and like all these like very like local rules for all these like different states, we probably would have done better. But at the same time, if you take away all that and you go like, well, what about like the popular vote? Like you're still behind by 2.5 million votes.
That's a bit of a problematic argument at that point.
That's not 2.5 million votes of fucking like voter suppression.
Right.
I'm sorry.
Well, and then you, like once you like confront like like a heavy duty Bernie Sanders supporter with that information, they're like, well, yeah, but if like if we can convince everybody that Hillary's a criminal, they'll all like switch to Bernie or something like. It's like, well,
dude,
okay, but
and if
a frog like,
maybe
if a frog could jump higher, he wouldn't bump his ass a hopping, or however the saying goes.
There have been two people who have like been like constantly like reposting these articles about how like next week Hillary Clinton is going to be in handcuffs because from the FBI.
Of course,
two people. Bernie Sanders supporter, really heavy, like Bernie bros,
right?
And Donald Trump,
right?
So like you guys are in good fucking company.
Yeah, exactly. Like good luck.
But here's the other thing where it's like, okay, in Nevada, in Las Vegas, there was a sort of what was it, the caucus?
Oh yeah, whatever.
I don't know. Basically, Bernie Sanders supporters just started trashing the place because they thought they were being whatever, like things weren't going their way. Right. And here's my take on this: Bernie Sanders supporters, he has shored up the youth vote.
Right.
And the youth are millennials. And they're like for like 10 years now, people have been talking about how this generation is the most egotistical and the most privileged, the most the. And I'm not,
and I'm not even sure. I mean, like I believe that to a certain extent, but I think that like every young generation sort of goes through the like the older generations calling them like worthless. I mean, like
okay, I get it.
But at the same time, like I think that there is like some genuine sort of and a lot of it maybe is not like our fault per se, but I think a lot of it is we've spent so much energy over the last 5 or 6 elections talking about how like, oh my God, if only the youth vote came out, it would have turned everything around. And I think we've just been like poisoning like these people's heads, like with saying like you people are the most important people on the planet, and you created Barack Obama, and you are responsible for it. And so they've just been like absorbing like all of this like I'm the greatest, most important person in generation ever.
I hear what you're saying, but I don't think it's because people have been saying if the youth people came out they could like dominate an election. I think it's because like they carry that into the election. There are people who are like that sort of like stereotype of the millennial is like somebody who's just been sort of coddled their entire life.
Yeah, exactly.
So why is anybody like surprised when these people who like have this inflated sense of self-worth, when they don't get their way, they throw a fucking temper tantrum and start destroying shit? I'm like, I'm sorry, like guess what? And people are saying like, oh, like the DNC is like rigging the election against Bernie Sanders. Let me tell you something. The leading candidate coming into the 2008 election was Hillary Clinton.
Right.
And like if the DNC was going to rig an election, it would have been then, right?
Yeah.
But Obama reached in, and I mean, it helped that he is from the African American community.
Right.
But he reached out to other communities.
It seems like it would have been a lot easier for if it was some sort of internal derail, like to try to make Hillary Clinton president. It seems like the first black guy named Barack Hussein Obama would have been the opportune time to sabotage things,
actually,
because it would have taken
this guy
no
out
effort.
of here. You know,
it's like, oh, now all of a sudden you've decided to sabotage it against her because it's some guy you like.
But also like I said, like because he's in the African American community, he can reach out to there. But it's like the problem with the Bernie campaign is that he didn't make these inroads to the minority communities.
Yeah, exactly.
And also like Barack Obama did it with some fucking flair.
Right.
Like he did it with charisma.
Right.
And here's also the other thing, where it's like if you're somebody who just lives and dies by Bernie, and you're basically saying everybody's an idiot who doesn't fucking vote for Bernie. You're basically you're not promoting your own cause by calling people idiots.
Yeah, you're sort of salting the earth behind you and being like, well, fuck you all then. I'm gonna vote for Trump and then I'm gonna go live in a cave somewhere. What is your plan? Okay, great. Whatever.
Well, it's just basically when you ask them well, how come people didn't vote for Bernie? You're like, oh, because they're all idiots. Well, it's well, how are you supposed? Well, how are you supposed to get all those people on your side?
Oh, really? I mean, vote for Bernie Sanders. You mean the people that the people that called you assholes and idiots for the last couple of years? Yeah,
because
I'm
Bernie
really into them.
Bernie didn't make any inroads to the black, Hispanic, or Asian community. So what are you saying about those people?
Well, and it's not even that he wouldn't have been able to. Running for president is mostly about filling out a lot of paperwork and having meetings and getting these super delegate people on board and it's just years and years of it's not all as exciting as Donald Trump makes it look, where you just walk up and say the first thing that pops into your head and everybody sucks your cock. It's just
is that how it goes?
That appears to be for him, but I feel like people think that it's somehow destroying the system that there's just all of this complexity in place or something like that. It's well, no, that exists so that some Adolf Hitler type person doesn't come along and in 3 weeks just runs roughshod over everything and destroys the entire Democratic Party. That's why that exists, and I'm sorry that it does, and it's a pain in the ass, but just fucking get over with it.
And also you and I both have donated to Bernie Sanders' campaign.
Yeah.
And
I bought a T-shirt even.
And we'll probably vote for Bernie Sanders. Let me tell you something. It is this, like I said, this inflated sense of self-worth where people are just oh yeah, this is this is a revolution. And it's hey, you know what? Just because you post something about Bernie Sanders four times a day does not make you fucking Che Guevara.
Well, and I support.
Okay?
So if Bernie Sanders' intent at this point seems to be, I want to take my followers or my supporters, I want to take them to the convention, and we'll make our voices known. That's fine with me. That's absolutely fine, and that's great if that happens.
He did exactly what he did was amazing. I'm not fucking disparaging Bernie Sanders. I'm disparaging the people who are being jackasses about it.
Right, exactly. Yeah.
Bernie Sanders, everything he has to say, I totally agree with. Bernie Sanders, what he needs to do is go to the convention and unite the fucking these factions. But there are people who are already signing fucking petitions that they'll never vote for Hillary Clinton.
Right.
Over Trump. Over fucking Trump.
Right, exactly.
Over
again
fucking crazy McHair pants.
Right, yeah.
That they're not gonna fucking vote. And
right.
and they willfully post this on Facebook.
Right.
Where you're just dude, in America we have a stipulation about fucking self-incrimination. You're not supposed to be able to make your own self look like shit.
Fantastic.
Anyway, okay, wait. Before we take a break, I'm sorry. Now I'm all hot under the collar.
Well, I certainly hope, and this is something that I can see Trump putting off, and people eventually forgetting about.
Trump
but
is a fucking
everyone
footnote.
has to demand his tax returns before he can run, because we already know that he's probably doing shady shit. And if you demand it from him and then, like, cut him off and say, like, we're not voting for you if you don't.
Go back.
Like, he'll have to. But
Go back. We talked about this on SFBarkast like 2 years ago.
Yeah, I said, like, well, his campaign ends the second he reveals his tax return.
Yeah, exactly. And, like,
he knows this.
Yeah, exactly. But the thing is, like, he's already the presumptive nominee. He can't he can't derail his own, like, campaign.
Right.
So, and if he knows it's going to derail him, he's going to, like, fucking, like, say, like, no, I'm not going to, like, release my tax returns.
Right. And, like, I'm hoping that has, like, a huge negative effect, but I think that people, like, are starting to, like, already forget about it, where they're like, they're just going to be like, oh, yeah, like, well, that was his choice. And it's like, well, no, like, like, you don't understand, like, what a fucking, like, psychopath and liar he is, where, like, I mean, there's supposedly, this is like semi-rumor and stuff like that, but, like, according to the, like, the releases that he's already done, like, he has, like, these, like, Westchester golf courses that he values at, like, $500,000 and stuff like that, because he doesn't want to pay taxes on them. But then, like, he turns around and says, yeah, that thing's worth, like, $100 million, and that's why I'm worth $10 billion.
Yeah, he's a fucking tax cheat.
Exactly. He's like a total fucking tax cheat, and he's been doing it for, like, so long that there's no way he can, like, cover it all up. So there's, like, zero incentive for him to release it. But I hope people, like.
If there's one last thing I can say to, like, Bernie Sanders supporters who are like hell bent on disrupting shit, you don't want to go from being somebody who is, like, being part of the democratic process, being a participant in the democratic process, and then being looked at as a Cossack.
Yeah, exactly.
Because, like, if suddenly, like, if you're going to throw a temper tantrum and start, like, breaking shit, that's basically a Cossack.
Yeah, exactly.
So, like, get over that shit.
That's right. Suck it, everybody.
Suck it up. All right. All right, you want to take a break?
Sure.
Man, that was. I felt like we didn't have enough. A whole lot. What's the score of the game?
Oh, yeah, that's good. Good question.
Before we take a break, what's the score of the game? Because we
are at halftime. Holy shit.
Good guys?
Good guy. Or for you, even with the 7 points, 62 to 55.5.
Yes!
Cavaliers win.
Oh, my God. It's like the happiest day of my fucking life.
Although it's still Nationals 9, Mets 1. But
fuck that. I don't care. Oh, Andrew, do you have any idea how long it's been since I won a sports bet?
I feel like I should have told you that you lost just to avoid future carnage.
I want to take a moment. I want to thank a few people.
I want to crumple up my my $20 bet. Thank you for nothing, Toronto Raptors.
Oh, Toronto!
I hate you, Drake. I hate.
I hate Jose Baptista.
Not a fan of Labatt's. I'll drink Molson from now on.
All right, you know what? I'm not gonna fucking stink up the room. Let's take a break. I'm just gonna do a little, like, victory dance over here in the corner. All right, this is SFBarkast. We'll be back from Reno, Nevada. All right, and we are back. Andrew, I am through doing my victory dance. Like, I know
it took a while. Like, it's now like 3 a.m. like the next morning.
I know. Like, here's the thing. Like, I love sports gambling, but honestly, I hadn't won, like, a bet in, like, a long time. Therefore, I won a bet. Like, even though it was like a first half bet,
you know what?
A cheap one's a good one.
Hey, yeah, but and it wasn't that cheap. Like, you put more money down than I did on mine. So I'm, now that I know that, I'm actually I'm glad. I thought that you would put down the same amount.
It's also, like, the problem with, like, being, like, a degenerate sports gambler. As soon as you win, you're like, which way to the tables?
Exactly. Like, where can I give this back?
That's why, like, if you own a casino, and I'm talking to all of our listeners who own casinos.
Yes.
Like,
if you don't own a casino, please turn the podcast off at this point.
You should not be listening. But it's like, if you own a casino, it's like, it's such, like, that's why, like, when somebody, like, in Vegas, they'll, like, demolish an entire casino and then build it up like a $1 billion casino in the place. And you're like, wait, how do they pay for that? It's like, because, well, for two ways.
Magic.
One way is that, like, they have a bunch of statisticians who are basically like, oh, well, like, all the games are rigged in our favor.
Right.
And
which is nice.
Which is very nice. And then they have like a bunch of people like me who's like, oh, even if they win, they did go and blow it at the casino.
Right. Well, I'd like to think like that there's tiers of gamblers as well. I mean, like you got your basic idiots that are just wandering in off the street and being
I mean,
like.
you mean those tiers go down, not up, though, right?
Right. But it's like there's people that are like, oh, should I hit on 20? And like and they're gonna lose their money.
Yeah.
But then but like I think like the worst kind of degenerate gambler, which may or may not be the category you fit into.
Before you say it,
yeah,
like I'm sitting right here. Okay, so choose your words well.
I should say like people that fit into this category that may or may not resemble you in any way. Like the most dangerous sort of gambler is the one that's like, you know what, like I can figure this out. Like they don't know what the fuck they're doing. Like and it's like. The great thing about like
that's a hard one because like people who are like really into like numbers,
right.
Their idea is like, oh, you know what, like I can figure this out.
Exactly, and I think there's certainly people that are like that are just like all like crazy Rain Man types or whatever that are like, yeah, I can I can figure out the odds on this, but like I think it's when you start like second guessing like all the like the odds and everything like that, where you're like, that's ridiculous. Those guys are idiots.
Well, no, actually, that's the thing where it's like when I play, or if I'm at a table or something, like I play with my gut.
Right.
And it's just like
it's the only way to play,
and that's why I don't do well.
Right.
It's like I got a good feeling about this. It's like
exactly.
I used to live with a guy who's a professional online gambler, and all he was like a math guy. And he would look at the hands, and he'd be constantly running numbers in his head.
Right.
And he'd be like, my percentage to win here is better than all the other percentages.
Right.
So therefore, I'm going to like bet high.
Right.
I don't do that. I just go, I feel like I'm going to get a queen.
Exactly. It's like
which, by the way, like I say that like in poker and other like venue.
You're trying to ring girls' bikes, or ring girls' bikes.
So whatever. Like I'm happy. Although we gotta get out of here because we gotta like.
Yeah, you gotta go collect your goddamn money.
We gotta go. Not that, but we gotta go watch the second half. But here we go, Andrew. This is your first like Reno SF Barkast.
Indeed, and your first completed one. Hopefully, well, knock on wood. This will be the first one that you do that makes it to air.
Don't branch off and start doing the Reno Barkast.
Oh no, my plans are all ruined.
Cause like then I'd have to have like some guys come and like murder you. Because that's how cutthroat like podcasting is.
Exactly. Well, or you'd have to do something worse, like replace me with Joe Gorman or Drew Harmon.
Oh.
which I've already tried to explain to them that I would sooner be dead than see either one of them do that.
All right, but okay, so like my second time at JubJubs, your first time, Andrew. What is your final analysis, Phil Giuanu, of JubJubs in Reno?
I like it.
By the way, we didn't even say where it is.
Oh yeah, Wells Street or something. I think
well,
it's in the sort of hipster part of Reno. Like if you have one of those smartphones on you, like just put in. One thing we didn't find out is the name of this place derived from Aunt Selma's lizard or whatever on the Simpsons.
Here's the thing: I would love to go and ask the lovely Courtney, the bartender, if that's the case. But like,
who cares?
I'm
sure it's got something to do with it, I'm sure.
But I don't want to know if it's not the case. I'm going to believe that it is based on Patty and Selma, or Selma's
one of them,
iguana,
right?
JubJub.
Exactly.
So there we go.
One would hope.
But
overall,
though. Let me reload this for you.
Oh, okay, sure.
Andrew, what is your final analysis, Phil Giuanu, of JubJubs?
Thirst Parlor. I would say I really like it a lot. Like I was sort of expecting it to be more like polished or more of a downtown sort of like.
Because you're highfalutin.
Well, no, I was actually thinking there'd be like a lot of like sports on TV and stuff like that. So I wasn't, and even though I know that like bands come here and stuff like that, I thought it was more of a polished up sort of like venue like that. But I like this a lot more. I like the sort of Bender's feel to it.
if that's what you're thinking, like, you know, like I'm glad that you were like disappointed because like I like the fact that it's not polished up.
Oh yeah, totally.
It's like yeah, it's got like it's basically the bar that I would hang out at if I was living in Reno.
Sure. And I think
looking at you louder.
I also like the fact that like, you know, some, you know, I hesitate to call him a seedy character, but a you know, some guy that's really into speed metal like just popped in to play a game of pool and like blasted like speed metal. Like it's nice to have a bar that you can do that in. Like, you know, it's
absolutely.
Like I respect that much more than I would like if somebody walked into like, you know, some like straight-laced bar and started cranking like a Rolling Stone by Bob Dylan or something like that.
Yeah,
like that would be the worst. I would hate that. But like for some reason, like I'll forgive it if your music tastes are really obscure.
Yeah, when you think about it, it's like like if a guy like comes in and is like, I want to play some pool, I want to listen to some speed metal.
Right.
It's like that's totally fine.
Maybe get in a fight. Maybe do a lot of meth in the parking lot. Who knows?
We'll
see where the evening takes me.
It's better than someone coming in like, we're all going to listen to Third Eye Blind right now.
That's right. Who wants to hear Piano Man for the 50th time?
So my final analysis is that I love this bar. I really wish that like we're here in the afternoon.
Yeah, yeah.
Is it afternoon or morning? I can't remember. Whatever. Doesn't
however
matter.
long your celebration lasted.
Boy, I kind of wish we were here like later because like, so you can see like the performance space.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
We're in the bar area, and it's great. It's fantastic. But like I like the performance space is also amazing too.
Wow, cool.
And I don't know what kind of like performances they have here, but the last time I was here, they had this like really like industrial like avant-garde like performance thing. So it surprised me, and but I love it.
Check it out.
Yeah. I'm on board.
Check your local listings. If there's a band here that you like, come see them.
Do you have any plugs, Andrew?
No, just I guess maybe a couple of things that like I finished up or watched on TV, movies, etc. I finally finished that 11/23 or 22/63 show, the James Franco, J.J. Abrams, Stephen King sort of thing. And wow, did that like? It seemed like such a fucking ripoff. Because like, did you ever finish it or?
I did, yes.
And like, yeah, like the final episode, it's like we spent like all of this time building up to this Kennedy thing, and then like, yeah, he like, you know, and spoiler alerts, I'm sorry, but like he thwarts the like Kennedy assassination, and then like it turns out that like, oh, like, you know, once he gets back to the future, like, oh, you didn't know about the Kennedy camps? That's when everything went to shit, and like, and so like. It was like the biggest like sort of screw you to like the ending where it was just like, oh yeah, like we had this thing in our pocket the whole time about like, you know, Kennedy camps and like, you know, concentration camps run by John F. Kennedy in the 70s.
Exactly. And also like but the thing is like I understand if you're gonna like make a narrative around one of these like huge like moments in American history, like the Kennedy assassination might be one of them, but to sort of turn it on its ear and say
at the last minute
but like,
too.
You remember that guy Kennedy? He was like Hitler. And if he had lived,
right,
he would have been like putting people in camps.
And if you'd given me any clue that was the case, like, you know, at any point, like I might have forgiven it. But like the fact that like they just like acted like, okay, everything is completely normal as you know it, except when it isn't at the last minute when we'll tell you.
Here's the thing, I dig all of that, like Twilight Zone, M. Night Shyamalan, like twists and turns. But the thing is, like when it's like stupid like that.
Yeah.
Although you know, like my take, because I watched it exactly like you, but it's like when like I got to that point, I was just like, wait a minute, like I'm the dumb one.
Yeah, exactly.
For watching this.
Like, what? Like, I guess the joke's on me. Thanks a lot.
Right. So here's like the M. Night Shyamalan twist is that you watched this.
Right. Yeah. M. Night Shyamalan twist is while you were watching this, we stole all the money out of your bank account.
Exactly.
Like, well, great. What a twist.
I don't have any plugs. I keep watching Archer. Archer's a great plug.
Definitely.
And keep watching every week and Veep. Oh, and Veep as well.
Great.
And that's about it.
Cool.
All right, Andrew, we did it.
We did it.
The critics said it couldn't be done,
well,
but we did like a barcast in Reno.
Well, we'll have to like I'll have to like take this home and we'll see.
The first of many. And
yeah, I hope so.
hopefully we'll see. Like, you know, like
that'd be great.
And I want you to have a good settle in Reno.
Yeah, well, but I'll have to
Don't
come
take
back
up
into the
hunting.
city of the real city at some point as well.
I don't want to what would be the worst thing that I could see the next time I come up to Reno and see you is if you're like you own like a big like pickup truck and like you have like gun racks in the back.
That's right.
I'm pretty sure that's not going to happen.
Like I'm wandering the streets of like downtown Reno, shirtless, like covered in tattoos, and, like screaming at sports books to let me in.
There's a lot of tattoo like parlors here.
There really is, yeah. And like
also, why are they called parlors?
That's a good point. Well, I mean, like, why is this called a parlor? It's a thirst parlor and not a tattoo parlor. So they're really into the parlor scene here, I guess.
Parlors used to be for like funeral homes,
right?
And now tattoo joints.
Or like back in like French times, wasn't it like where like fancy people would hang out and discuss issues of the day?
All right, we're way off on a tangent. Andrew, thank you so much, and JubJubs,
of course,
and the lovely Courtney, thank you so much. We're signing off. This is SF Barkast. I am Jeff Cleary.
I am Andrew Loudon.
And we'll see you next time.